The space station smelled like rust and sadness, pulled his jacket around his shoulders as he walked through the narrow streets of the lower market. He did not want to be here. Nobody good ever wanted to be here. But his ship needed fuel cells, and the only trader who sold them cheap was in this part of the station. So walked, keeping his eyes forward, trying not to look at the things being sold in the shadows. The lower market of Station 47 was famous across the galaxy. Not famous in a good way. It was famous because you could buy anything here. Weapons, drugs, information, and people. Was human. He came from a planet called Earth, a small blue world on the edge of the galaxy. Humans had only been in space for about 200 years. They were new to everything. New to the aliens. New to the wars. New to the cruelty that existed between the stars. But had seen enough to know that the galaxy was not a kind place. He passed a stall selling stolen ship parts. He passed another stall selling strange meat that he did not want to think about. Then he heard the sounds of chains, the sounds of crying. The slave market. Tried to walk faster. He did not want to see. He knew he could not help anyone here. He was just a small cargo ship captain with barely enough money to keep his ship flying. He could not save anyone. But his feet stopped moving. In front of him, there was a raised platform. On the platform stood about 20 beings of different species. Some were small and covered in fur. Some were tall with gray skin and too many arms. Some looked almost human but with different colored eyes or strange marks on their skin. All of them wore chains. A fat alien with green skin was shouting prices to the crowd. He pointed at each slave and told the buyers what they could do. This one was good for cleaning. That one was strong for heavy work. Another one was young and could be trained for anything. Felt sick. He was about to turn away when he saw her. She stood at the back of the platform, away from the others. She was tall, taller than most humans. Her skin was pale blue like the color of ice on a frozen lake. She had 4 eyes, 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones above them. Her body was covered in scars, deep scars, old scars, scars that told a story of pain and violence. But it was not the scars that made stop, it was her eyes. Her 4 eyes were empty. There was no hope in them, no anger, no fear, just nothing. Like someone had taken everything from her and left only a shell. The fat green alien noticed looking. He smiled a wide smile that showed too many teeth. "Ah, a human," the alien said. "You have good eyes, my friend, you see the special one." Did not answer. He could not stop looking at the blue woman. "She is expensive," the alien continued, "but worth every credit. Do you know what she is?" Shook his head slowly. "She is," the alien said, lowering his voice like he was sharing a secret, "a warrior of the Empire. They are the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. This one killed hundreds in the border wars, maybe thousands. They called her the Blue Death." Looked at the woman again. She did not look dangerous, she looked broken. "Then why is she here?" asked. "Why is she in chains?" The alien laughed. "The Empire lost the war. Her masters were killed, she was captured and sold. That was 5 years ago. She has had many owners since then." He leaned closer to, "But she breaks them all, not by fighting. No, they beat that out of her long ago. She breaks them by being too much work. She does not eat well. She does not follow orders well. She just stands there like a ghost. Most buyers return her within a month. I have sold her 7 times already." Felt something twist in his chest. "Then why do you keep trying to sell her?" "Because someone always buys," the alien said with a shrug. "Hope is a strange thing. Some buyers think they can fix her. Some buyers think they can use her old skills. Some buyers just want to own something that was once dangerous. They all learn the truth eventually." The woman's 4 eyes slowly moved. They looked at. For a moment, something flickered in those empty eyes, something like recognition, like she could see that he was different from the others who looked at her. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She walked forward. The chains around her wrists and ankles made soft sounds with each step. She walked until she reached the edge of the platform, as close to as the chains would allow. And she spoke. Her voice was quiet. It was rough, like she had not used it in a long time, but heard every word. "Please purchase me, human." The fat alien looked shocked. She speaks. In 5 years I have never heard her speak. But was not listening to the alien. He was looking at the woman, at Vila, for that was the name written on the tag around her neck. Why, asked her, why me? Vila's 4 eyes stayed on his face. Because you look at me with soft eyes, because you do not look at me like I am a thing, you look at me like I am a person. She paused. I have not been looked at like that for a very long time. Felt his heart beating hard in his chest. He thought about his ship. He thought about his sister waiting for him. He thought about his engineer who would tell him he was crazy. He thought about his empty pockets and his empty cargo hold. But he also thought about those empty eyes that had just shown a tiny spark of something, something like hope. Reached into his jacket. He pulled out his credit chip. He had saved this money for 3 months. It was supposed to be for new engine parts. It was supposed to be for the future of his ship and his crew. He held it out to the fat green alien. How much? He asked. The alien smiled his too wide smile. For you, my human friend, a special price. Did not care about the price. He did not care that this was probably a mistake. He did not care that he could not afford this. He only cared about one thing. No one should have eyes that empty. I will take her, said. And in that moment, in a dirty slave market on a forgotten space station, something changed. Not just for Vila. Something changed for the entire galaxy. They just did not know it yet. The walk back to the ship was quiet. Vila walked 2 steps behind, her head down, her 4 eyes watching the ground. The chains were gone now. Had made the fat green alien remove them before they left the market, but Vila still walked like she was wearing them. Ship was called the Sunrise. It was an old cargo vessel, small and worn, with patches of different colored metal where repairs had been made over the years. It was not a beautiful ship, but it was home. Was waiting at the cargo door when they arrived. She was younger sister by 3 years. She had the same dark eyes as her brother, but her hair was longer, tied back in a simple tail. She crossed her arms when she saw Vila. What is this? Asked. This is Vila, said. She will be staying with us. Looked at Vila. She looked at the scars on her blue skin. She looked at the empty expression on her face. Then she looked at her brother with eyes that said many things at once. Can I speak with you, alone? They walked a short distance away. Vila stood perfectly still, like a statue, waiting. Have you lost your mind? Whispered angrily. We cannot afford fuel, we cannot afford food, and you bought a slave. I did not buy a slave, said. I bought a person. That is the same thing. No, said, it is not. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It was the ownership chip that the fat alien had given him. It was the thing that marked Vila as his property, the thing that gave him power over her life and death. His eyes went wide as dropped the chip on the ground. Then he lifted his boot and stepped on it. The chip broke into small pieces under his foot. What are you doing? Gasped. I am setting her free, said. She is not a slave anymore. She is not property. She is a person and she can do whatever she wants. He walked back to Vila. She had not moved. She had watched everything with her 4 empty eyes. Vila said, I have broken your ownership chip. You are free now. You do not belong to me. You do not belong to anyone. Vila did not move. She did not speak. Do you understand? Asked. You can leave if you want. You can go anywhere you want. You are free. For a long moment, Vila just stared at him. Then slowly she spoke. I do not understand. What do not you understand? Why would you do this? Vila's voice was still rough, still quiet. You paid money for me, many credits. I saw the number on the transfer. It was not a small amount. Yes, agreed. It was a lot of money. Then why would you waste it? Why would you buy something and then throw it away? Felt a pain in his chest, not because of her words, but because of what they meant. She had been treated as property for so long that she could not understand anything else. You are not something, said gently. You are someone, and I did not buy you to own you. I bought you so that no one else could. Vila's 4 eyes blinked. It was the first real expression had seen on her face. This is a trick, she said. It is not a trick. Every master says that in the beginning. They say kind words. They give easy work. They make you believe things might be different. Then they show their true nature. They always do. Did not know what to say. He could not prove he was different. Words meant nothing. Only time could prove the truth. I understand why you do not believe me, he said. You have been hurt many times. You have been lied to many times. I cannot change that, but I can show you something different. If you want to stay on this ship, you can stay, not as a slave, as a guest, or as a crew member if you decide you want to work. The choice is yours. Vila was silent for a long time, stood nearby, her arms still crossed, her face worried but not angry anymore. Finally, Vila spoke again. If I stay, what will I do? Thought about it. Whatever you want. You can help with the ship if you want. You can rest if you want. You can learn new things if you want. There are no orders. There are no punishments. There is only life. Life, Vila repeated the word like it was from a foreign language. I have forgotten what that means. Appeared at the cargo door. He was a short man with thick arms and oil stains on his clothes. He was the ship's engineer, and he had been his friend since childhood. Captain, he said, looking at Vila with curious eyes, we have a guest. We might have a new crew member, said, if she chooses to stay. Walked closer. He looked at Vila without fear, without disgust. He just looked at her like she was a normal person. Hello, he said simply. I fix things that break. Are you hungry? I was about to make food. It was such a simple question, such a normal question, but it seemed to break something inside Vila. Her 4 eyes filled with water, tears, she was crying. Stepped forward, her expression soft now. Hey, it is okay, you are safe here. But Vila was not crying because she was sad. She was crying because she could not remember the last time someone had asked if she was hungry. For 5 years, she had been given food when her masters decided. She had eaten scraps when she was allowed. She had gone without food when she was being punished. No one had ever asked her. No one had ever cared. I do not, Vila tried to speak, but her voice broke. I do not know how to be free. Stepped forward. Slowly, carefully, giving her time to move away if she wanted, he placed a hand on her shoulder. That is okay, he said. We will figure it out together. That night, Vila ate dinner with the crew of the Sunrise. She sat at the small table in the ship's kitchen. The food was simple, just rice and vegetables and some protein that had prepared. But to Vila, it was the best meal she had ever eaten. Not because of the taste, but because of the feeling. She was sitting at a table with others, not on the floor, not in a corner, at a table like an equal. Asked her questions about her home world. Vila answered as best as she could. She spoke of the ice mountains of her planet. She spoke of the 3 moons that lit up the night sky. She spoke of her family, long dead, and her people, now scattered across the galaxy as slaves and refugees. No one told her to stop talking. No one told her she was speaking too much. They listened. They were interested. When dinner was over, showed Vila to a small room. It was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a small storage box, but it had a door that locked from the inside. This is your room, said. You can lock the door if you want. No one will come in without your permission. Vila touched the door lock with trembling fingers. My room, she whispered. I have never had my own room. After left, Vila sat on the bed. She looked around the small space, her room. And for the first time in 5 years, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe this was real. Maybe these humans were different. Maybe she could learn to live again. She did not know it yet, but she was beginning to understand something. Something important about humans. Something that the galaxy had not yet learned. Humans did not just fight for power or money or territory. Humans fought for ideas, for feelings, for things like dignity and freedom and hope. And those were the most dangerous things of all. 3 weeks passed on the sunrise. 3 weeks of flying through the dark spaces between stars. 3 weeks of small cargo jobs and cheap fuel stops and quiet conversations over simple meals. And slowly, Vila began to change. It started with small things. She began to look at people when they spoke to her. Her 4 eyes were no longer empty. There was something in them now: curiosity, interest, life. She started eating full meals without waiting for permission. She started sleeping in her bed instead of on the floor. She started speaking in more than just short, quiet sentences. One morning was working on the ship's engine. It was an old engine, always breaking, always needing repairs. He was lying on his back under a large machine, his hands covered in black oil, when he heard footsteps. Vila stood there watching him. "Can I help?" she asked. Looked at her with surprise. In 3 weeks she had never offered to help with anything. She had been too afraid, too unsure. "Do you know anything about engines?" he asked. "No," Vila admitted, "but I can learn." Smiled. It was a warm smile full of kindness. "Then get down here. I will teach you." Vila lay down next to him, looking up at the complicated machine above them, pointed to different parts and explained what each one did. He spoke slowly and patiently, never getting angry when she did not understand, never laughing when she asked simple questions. By the end of the day, Vila knew how to change a fuel filter. It was not much. It was a simple task that any engineer could do in minutes, but to Vila it felt like she had learned magic. She had learned something new, something useful, something that had value. For 5 years her only value had been as property. Now she had skills. She had knowledge. She was becoming something more. That evening found Vila in the observation room. It was a small room at the front of the ship with a large window that looked out at the stars. Vila sat there often, just watching the universe pass by. Sat next to her without speaking. For a while they both just looked at the stars. "Can I ask you something?" finally said. "Yes." "What was it like, being a warrior, I mean, before everything bad happened?" Vila was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "I was born for war. My people, we have been fighting for 10,000 years. It is in our blood. From the time I was a small child, I was trained to kill. I learned weapons. I learned combat. I learned how to take life without thinking." She paused, looking at her blue hands. "I was good at it, the best of my generation. They gave me the name Blue Death because I moved so fast that enemies only saw a flash of blue before they died. I was proud of that name. I wore it like an honor." "And now?" asked gently. "Now I am ashamed," Vila said. "All those lives I took, all that death I caused, for what? For an empire that fell, for masters who are now dust, for nothing." Placed her hand on Vila's arm. The blue skin was cold to the touch, but Vila did not pull away. "You were a child when they trained you," said. "You did not choose that life. They chose it for you. That does not bring back the dead." "No," agreed. "But it means you can choose something different now. You can be something different. The past is gone. The future is still being written." Vila looked at the young human woman. She was so small, so fragile compared to a warrior. A single blow from Vila's hand could kill her, but she sat there without fear, offering comfort, offering understanding. "How do you do that?" Vila asked. "Do what?" "Not be afraid of me. You know what I was. You know what I have done. Why are you not afraid? Smiled, because I see who you are now, not who you were then. My brother saw it first. He saw a person who was hurting, a person who needed help. That is what he does. He sees the good in people, even when they cannot see it themselves. Your brother is a strange human. Laughed. It was a bright, warm sound. Yes, he is, but he is also the best person I know. That is why I follow him across the galaxy in this old ship. That is why stays, even when he could get better jobs on bigger ships, makes us want to be better. Vila thought about those words. She thought about all the commanders she had served under, all the masters who had owned her. None of them had made her want to be better. They had only made her want to survive. But was different. He did not give orders. He did not threaten punishment. He simply lived in a way that made others want to follow him. It was a kind of power that Vila had never seen before. A quiet power, a gentle power, but maybe the strongest power of all. The next day, Vila asked to teach her how to fly the ship. He seemed surprised but happy. He took her to the cockpit and sat her in the co-pilot seat. He explained the controls, the instruments, the navigation systems. He let her take the controls during the safe, empty parts of space. She made mistakes. She almost flew them into an asteroid once, but never yelled. He just calmly helped her fix each mistake and explained what she did wrong. Why are you so patient? Vila asked after her third mistake in 1 hour. Because mistakes are how we learn, said. No one is born knowing how to fly a ship. Everyone starts from nothing. Everyone makes mistakes. But I was a warrior. I should be able to learn faster. War is not flying. They are different skills. You are learning something new. That takes time. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Vila had never heard those words before. Her whole life she had been pushed to be perfect. Any mistake meant punishment. Any weakness meant death. But here on this small ship with these strange humans, mistakes were okay. Weakness was okay. Growth was expected, not demanded. By the end of the week, Vila could fly the ship in straight lines. By the end of the month, she could handle basic turns and stops. She was learning. Slowly, but she was learning. And she was changing in other ways, too. She began to smile, not often, not big smiles, but small movements of her mouth that showed something like happiness. The crew noticed. They did not say anything about it. They did not want to make her feel strange, but they noticed. One night, after a long day of work and learning, the crew sat together in the common room. Was telling a story about a job he had years ago, before he joined the Sunrise. It was a funny story about a captain who got stuck in a waste disposal tube. Laughed. And then, for the first time since anyone could remember, Vila laughed. It was a strange sound, rough and unused, like a machine that had not run in years, but it was real, it was genuine. It was the sound of someone who had forgotten how to be happy, slowly remembering. The others stopped laughing. They looked at Vila. For a moment she felt afraid. Had she done something wrong? But then smiled at her, a real warm, happy smile. You have a nice laugh, he said. And Vila, the Blue Death, the former warrior of the Empire, felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt like she belonged. The trouble came on a quiet morning. Was in the cockpit, checking their course. They were heading to a small trading station to pick up a cargo of medical supplies. It was a simple job, nothing dangerous, just the kind of work the Sunrise did every week. Then the sensors screamed. 3 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel right in front of them. They were big ships, war ships. Their dark metal bodies were covered in weapons and armor. Felt his blood go cold. He knew those ships. Everyone in this part of the galaxy knew those ships. Warships. Ran into the cockpit. What is happening? We have company, said. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. Ships, 3 of them. Arrived next, his face pale. What do they want with us? A light on the console started blinking. An incoming communication. Press the button to accept it. A face appeared on the screen. It was a male, tall and blue-skinned like Vila, but with harder features and colder eyes. He wore the uniform of a high-ranking officer. Behind him, other soldiers stood in perfect formation. "Human vessel," the officer said. His voice was like ice. "You have something that belongs to us. You will surrender it now or you will be destroyed." Kept his face calm. "I do not know what you are talking about. We are a simple cargo ship. We have nothing of value." The officer smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Do not lie to me, human. Our trackers led us here. You have a warrior on your ship, a very valuable warrior. She was property of the Empire. She is still property of the Empire. You will return her to us." Felt anger rising in his chest. "She is not property. She is a person." "She is a weapon," the officer said. "The finest weapon our training programs ever produced. Do you have any idea how much time and resources went into creating her? The Blue Death belongs to the... She always will. She belongs to herself." The officer laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Humans, so foolish, so weak. You think your little feelings matter. You think your tiny ideals change anything. We are the Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We do not ask, we take." "Then come and take her," said, "if you can." The officer's eyes narrowed. "I will give you 1 hour to bring her to us. If you do not, we will tear your ship apart and take her from your dead bodies. The choice is yours." The communication ended. The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke, then turned to her brother. "What are we going to do? We cannot fight 3 warships. We do not even have weapons." "I know." "Then we have to give her up. We do not have a choice." "There is always a choice," said. He stood up and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" "To talk to Vila." He found her in her room. She was sitting on her bed, her 4 eyes staring at the wall. She had heard everything through the ship's communication system. She knew. "You should give me to them," she said before could speak. "No. You do not understand. They will destroy this ship. They will kill all of you. For what? For me? I am not worth it." Sat down next to her. "You are worth everything." Vila looked at him with confusion. "Why? Why do you keep saying these things? Why do you keep risking your life for me? I am nothing. I am broken. I am used." "You are family," said simply. Vila felt tears forming in her eyes again. "You have known me for 2 months. Sometimes 2 months is enough. Sometimes 2 minutes is enough. You are part of this crew now. You are my friend. I do not abandon my friends. Even if it kills you. Even then." Vila shook her head. "This is madness, human madness. No other species in the galaxy would do this. No other species would die for someone like me." "Maybe that is what makes us human," said. "Maybe that is why we are worth knowing." He stood up and held out his hand. "Come with me. We need to talk to the others. We need to make a plan." Vila looked at his hand. Then she looked at his face, and in his eyes she saw something she had never seen before. She saw complete belief, complete trust. He truly believed they could survive this. He truly believed she was worth saving. She took his hand. They gathered in the common room, and Vila, 4 people against 3 warships, it seemed hopeless. "We cannot fight them," said. "We cannot outrun them. Their ships are faster than ours. We cannot hide. They can track us somehow. What options do we have left?" Rubbed his chin. "We could call for help, but the closest station is 2 hours away, and who would help us against warships anyway?" "Nobody," admitted. "We are alone." Vila stood silent in the corner. She was thinking. Her warrior mind, dormant for so long, was starting to wake up. She was looking at the situation not as a slave, but as a soldier. "There might be a way," she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "They are arrogant," Vila continued. "They believe they are superior to everyone. They believe no one can stand against them. This makes them careless. They will not expect us to fight. They will not be ready for resistance. But we still cannot fight 3 warships, said. We do not need to fight all 3. We only need to fight long enough to escape. Vila walked to the center of the room. The lead ship, the one with the officer, is the command vessel. The other 2 are escorts. They follow the command ship's orders. If we disable the command ship, even for a few minutes, the escorts will be confused. They will wait for new orders. That is when we run. Disable a warship, asked, with what? Vila looked at him, with me. Silence filled the room. Explain, said. The officer wants me alive. He will not destroy this ship as long as I am on it. He needs me. So we pretend to surrender. We agree to give me up. When their soldiers board this ship to take me, I fight. I kill as many as I can. I make my way to their ship and damage their systems. While they deal with me, you escape. That is a suicide mission, said. You would die. Maybe, Vila agreed, but you would live. Shook his head. No, we do not sacrifice anyone. We all survive or we all die together. Vila looked at him with frustrated eyes. You humans are impossible. Why will you not let me save you? Because saving us would destroy you, said. And that is not salvation. That is just death with extra steps. Raised his hand. What if we modify the plan? What if Vila fights but we also prepare an escape path, a way to get her back to our ship before we run? How? Vila asked. Smiled. I have an idea. It is crazy. It probably will not work, but it is an idea. He explained his plan. It involved the escape pods. It involved timing. It involved a lot of luck. When he finished, everyone was silent for a long moment. Then spoke. Let us do it. Vila looked at him. You would risk everything on this crazy plan. I would risk everything on you, said. Because you are worth it. Because humans do not give up on the people they care about. Because we are family now, Vila, and family fights together. Vila felt something changing inside her, something shifting. For 5 years she had been alone. For 5 years she had believed she had no value. For 5 years she had wished for death. But now, looking at these 3 humans, she realized something. She did not want to die anymore. She wanted to live. She wanted to fight. She wanted to protect these people who had given her something she thought was lost forever. Hope. Okay, she said, let us do this together. And in her 4 eyes, the spark of the warrior returned. Vila stood at the airlock door waiting. Her body was still. Her breathing was calm, but inside her 4 hearts were beating fast. She could hear the soldiers approaching through the connection tube. Their boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. She counted the steps. 12 soldiers, maybe 15. Enough to control a slave, not enough to stop a warrior. Behind her, hidden in the engineering section, and the others were preparing, was working on the escape pod, making changes that would be needed later, was watching the sensors, waiting for the right moment, was at the controls, ready to fly them to freedom. The airlock door opened. The soldiers entered in perfect formation. They were big and strong, covered in combat armor, carrying weapons designed to kill. At the front was the officer from the communication. He smiled when he saw Vila. The Blue Death, he said. Look at you, standing there like a broken thing. The Empire spent millions training you. You were supposed to be the perfect weapon, and now look at you, a pet for humans. Vila said nothing. She just stood there, her eyes down, looking small and weak. The officer walked closer. Did you really think you could escape? Did you really think these little creatures could protect you? You belong to you always will. Now come with us quietly, and maybe we will let your human friends live. Vila raised her head slowly, and when the officer saw her eyes, his smile disappeared. Because her eyes were not empty anymore. They were burning. They were the eyes of the Blue Death. I do not belong to anyone, Vila said. And then she moved. She moved so fast that the soldiers could barely see her. One moment she was standing still. The next moment, she was among them, her hands and feet striking with deadly precision. The first soldier fell before he could raise his weapon. The second dropped a moment later. Vila was a blur of blue motion, dancing between the enemies, hitting them in places where their armor was weak. The officer shouted orders. The soldiers tried to surround her, but Vila was not the broken slave they expected. She was the warrior she had always been. The training was still there. The skills were still there. They had been sleeping, but now they were awake. In 30 seconds, 8 soldiers were down. The remaining soldiers backed away, fear in their eyes. They had heard stories about the Blue Death. Now they understood that the stories were true. The officer pulled out a controller device. "Stop, or I will activate your pain chip." Vila smiled. It was a cold smile, a dangerous smile. "The humans removed my pain chip 2 months ago. Try again." The officer's face went pale. He pressed the button anyway. Nothing happened. Vila kept coming. She grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. He was a large, much bigger than her, but she held him like he was nothing. "Tell your ships to stand down," she said. "Tell them to let the human ship go." "Never," the officer choked out. "The Empire will hunt you forever. You will never be free." "Maybe not," Vila said, "but I will be free today." She threw him into the wall. He hit hard and did not get up. The remaining soldiers ran. They ran back through the connection tube to their ship. They were too afraid to fight anymore. Vila looked at the time. 45 seconds had passed. Had said she needed at least 2 minutes. She had to give them more time. She ran through the connection tube onto the command ship. The hallways were filled with chaos. Soldiers running, officers shouting, alarms screaming. Nobody expected an attack. Nobody was prepared. Vila moved through the ship like a ghost. She was not trying to kill everyone. She was trying to cause damage. She broke control panels. She destroyed communication arrays. She cut power lines. Every second she bought was a second her new family needed. 1 minute and 30 seconds. She reached the engine room. 2 guards stood at the door. They saw her and raised their weapons. Vila ducked under the first shot and kicked the guard in the chest. She grabbed the second guard's weapon and turned it against him. She entered the engine room and looked at the massive machines. She did not understand how they worked, but she understood how to break things. She began pulling wires and breaking pipes. Steam filled the room. Sparks flew everywhere. The engines made terrible sounds like wounded animals. 2 minutes. The ship shook. The lights flickered. Vila had done enough damage. Now she needed to escape. She ran back toward the connection tube, but when she got there, she found it blocked. Soldiers had sealed the doors. She was trapped on the enemy ship. For a moment, fear gripped her heart. She was going to die here. She had accepted that possibility, but she had hoped secretly that she would see her friends one more time. Then she heard a sound, a loud sound, a sound of metal hitting metal. She looked up and saw an escape pod stuck in the hull of the ship. The door opened, and inside was. "Need a ride?" he asked with a smile. Vila could not believe it. "What are you doing here? You were supposed to escape." "We did escape," said, "but we came back for you. Did you really think we would leave you behind?" He held out his hand, just like he had in her room, just like he always did. Vila grabbed his hand and climbed into the pod. The door closed behind her, pressed the controls, and the pod shot away from the ship. Behind them, the command ship was spinning out of control. The engines were damaged. The systems were failing. The escort ships were circling in confusion, unsure what to do without orders. The Sunrise appeared next to the pod, opened the cargo bay door and piloted them inside. The moment they landed, hit the faster-than-light drive. The stars stretched into lines. Space folded around them. And then they were gone, jumping away faster than they could follow. They were safe. In the cargo bay, Vila sat on the floor, breathing hard, sat next to her. Then and came running in, hugging them both, laughing and crying at the same time. "You crazy humans," Vila said, but she was smiling, really smiling for the first time since she could remember. "You came back for me, you risked everything, you could have died." "That is what family does," said. "We would never leave you behind," added. Put his arm around Vila's shoulders. "I told you, we survive together or we die together. That is the human way." Vila looked at her friends, her family, these small, strange, wonderful creatures who had shown her something she never knew existed. Love, real love, not the fake loyalty of the empire, not the forced obedience of slavery. Real love freely given, expecting nothing in return. "You know they will come for me again," Vila said. Do not give up. They will send more ships, more soldiers. They will never stop hunting me." "Let them come," said. "We will be ready." "How can you be so confident? You are just one small ship." Smiled. It was the same warm smile that had made Vila believe in him from the beginning. "Because we have something they do not have. We have you. We have each other. We have something worth fighting for." Vila felt tears running down her blue cheeks, but these were not tears of sadness. These were tears of joy. "I understand now," she said quietly. "I understand why the galaxy fears humans." "Because we are dangerous?" asked. "No," Vila shook her head. "Because you make others want to fight beside you. You make others believe in impossible things. You take broken people and make them whole again. That is your true power. That is why you are dangerous." She looked at the human who had bought her not to own her, but to set her free. "When I asked you to purchase me in that market, I thought I was asking for an easier death. I did not know I was asking for a new life." Squeezed her shoulder, and now. Vila stood up. She looked out the window at the stars rushing past. She looked at her hands, the hands that had killed so many, the hands that had helped repair an engine, the hands that had held a family. "Now I know what I am fighting for," she said. "Now I have a reason to live. Now I am not the Blue Death anymore. I am just Vila, crew member of the Sunrise, and I will protect this family with everything I have." Hugged her, patted her back, smiled his warm smile. And somewhere in the darkness of space, a former weapon became a person. A broken warrior became whole. A slave became free. Because that is what humans do. They find the lost ones. They heal the broken ones. They give hope to the hopeless. And the galaxy would never be the same.